Good morning. Happy Monday. I just wanted to come on. Today is going to be kind of quick, but I think it will be powerful. And I wanted to connect you today to the power of yourself. And I know that I do that all the time and talking about these different ways to connect, but I am talking about getting a raw, unfiltered, face to face look at yourself in the mirror and doing some mirror work. So I have a quote that I want to share that's from Louise Hay's book called Mirror Work. And she states the following: the mirror reflects back to you the feelings you have about yourself. It makes you immediately aware of where you are resisting and where you are open and flowing. It clearly shows you what thoughts you will need to change if you want to have a joyous, fulfilling life. What a smart individual she is. So, like, there's absolutely no hiding when you're standing in front of the mirror, right? It allows us to take an intimate, raw, and sometimes painful glimpse at our relationship with ourselves. I don't know if any of you have ever stood naked in front of a mirror for any extended amounts of time, but it can be painful, especially when you suffer from any kind of lack of self-love. If you have gone through transformational change in your body, when we go from, like being a kid into like puberty. I remember back, and I shared this story with some of you before, like when I was 13, comparing myself constantly to the people that were around me when I took swimming lessons, because like my thighs rubbed together, like I had cellulite on the back of my legs at 13. Like, so when I looked at myself, I didn't love the skin that I was in. And that just progressed as I've gone through life. I've never been like 100% happy with the body that I'm in. And my body is a goddamn temple, and so are all of yours, right? Like, my body has two babies. It birthed two babies into this planet. That is a pretty amazing thing. And instead of honoring it for being able to do that, I have criticized myself for years. And now I'm in the phase of transitioning to the next part of my life, into menopause, where things are shifting even more. And, things just aren't where they used to be, and they don't look like they used to be. And, there's wrinkles appearing in places that I normally wouldn't have wrinkles, or saggy skin, or things like that. And it's like, I'm here. I'm here. So I wanted to bring this to the forefront. I did a reel that I shared on Instagram, or I'm sharing on Instagram today. And it really was, I heard the sound and I was like, oh my God, like perfect for this, because it makes you really get raw with yourself when you have to stand in front of the mirror. And you can be a person who is your biggest cheerleader, right? You can be someone to like just amp yourself up, or you can be the person who tears yourself down the most. But the choice is always yours, right? So, like when we catch that inner critic in action, it makes us feel uneasy. Like when I stand in front of, if I get out of the shower in the mornings now and I stand in front of the mirror and I catch myself thinking, oh, right? Like, because it happens. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm perfect and I have all of it under control, because I'm not. Far from it. I have a lot of moments where I'm just like, and I don't want to have anything to do with it. But the difference is that I now catch myself, and then I, in turn, stand and apologize. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that that's your first reaction. And I spend a few minutes and I do some mirror work around it, because that, my friends, is how we shift things. We first need to bring awareness to what those cringe moments feel like for us, regardless of what it is, right? Whether it's doing mirror work, whether it's like our relationship with money, whether it's a relationship with our kids, whether it's the thought of our job on a Monday morning, like, it doesn't matter what it is. But when you have those cringe moments and you instantly kind of go to the negative, that's when you have to really think about, like, is this the kind of person that I want to embody? Is this the kind of voice that I want to listen to? Or am I going to take a different path? And you have to put yourself in situations where you're triggered, because you can't change a limiting belief. You can't change conditioning. You can't change those perceptions about yourself unless you put yourself in a position where you are required to practice your new belief or what you would like to embody, right? So this mirror work is a powerful way to really connect to that vulnerable version of yourself. So when these things come to the surface, I'm going to tell you there's two things that are really important. Number one, like I said, is to bring awareness to how it makes you feel. Think about in your body where you feel those cringe moments, okay? Physically, connect to your physical self in the mirror. Where do you physically feel the pain or what of the emotion, the pain, physical pain in your body? Like what does it stir up when you look at whatever it is that you consider to be your imperfections, okay? And then the second thing that I want you to focus on is that piece of compassion. How, if you were like, pretend you were looking at your daughter in the mirror and she's spouting out all this stuff about herself, how would you be compassionate toward her? How would you, like, I don't want to say convince her, but I mean, ultimately that's what we're doing when we're talking to other people about it. We're convincing people, our friends, our kids, whoever, that like, my God, like, I wish you could see me through, I wish you could see yourself through the lens that I see you in, right? So bring that piece of compassion back to the relationship with yourself. Imagine as you're standing in front of that mirror, what you might say to your daughter if it was her standing there. If you don't have a daughter, pretend you do, or pretend it was your best friend, or whatever the case, right? Because a lot of times we don't listen to the compassion that we give ourselves. Like, we're not good at giving compassion to ourselves. We brush it off. But when we hear it from other people, sometimes it just lands different, right? So when that inner critic starts whispering in your ear, or maybe screaming, depending on how loud your inner critic is, I want you to take a minute and instead try to listen to the compassionate voice. Try to listen to that little inner cheerleader that's saying, I love you, in the background, because that voice is always the one that whispers. It always is the voice of your intuition, the voice of your higher self, the voice of your soul. It doesn't scream at you, it whispers to you to try and get you to pay attention to it. So really try and listen closely to that compassionate side of yourself and allow yourself to receive the words from you. Physically, talk to yourself in the mirror. I know that sounds crazy, but I promise you it's a powerful activity. Because in order to make it past that harshness of your inner critic, you kind of have to learn to like disarm it by building this self-compassion or self-love muscle in your brain. Okay. So my challenge to you this week is to commit to giving this a try. I want you to spend anywhere from 2 to 10 minutes gazing into the mirror. So if you want to start, if it's like, oh my God, I'm not standing in front of the mirror, naked out of the shower, not happening, because F that, it's disgusting. If that is like way too overwhelming of a thought to you, then I want you to start with your face. Okay. So sit somewhere, have like a little like mirror on your desk or something. I don't even know, like turn your phone screen around if you're at work and you need to try something, but like spend 2 to 10 minutes and just look at yourself, look at your reflection and think about what comes up. I would recommend also like coupling this with some journaling. So when you're sitting there gazing in the mirror, think about what comes to your mind. Are you paying attention to your physical self? Are you paying attention to like your features? Are you paying attention to your thoughts? Are you paying attention to feelings that you feel in your body? Like, are there things that are coming up for you? So bring awareness to all of it and journal about it. If you have positive things that are coming forward, like, oh, I'm so proud of you for getting out of bed this morning and showing up on time, right? Like sometimes that is a feat in itself. So if there's a sense of pride of like, I made it to work today. I don't want to be at work today, but I made it. So like, good job, self, right? Then journal about that. Sit in that emotion of pride for yourself. If something more difficult comes up, just pay attention and make sure you have some good quality emotional regulation strategies in your back pocket that you can use, because sometimes, and especially when we've had a load of trauma, sometimes doing work like this can trigger a lot of emotions because we're not used to sitting with ourselves, right? Same as when you start to learn how to meditate, when you get into that place of being able to allow your mind to be quiet, then we get into this place of like, oh crap, now all of the things are starting to flood back in. and that's too overwhelming. So it's really important to have some good emotional regulation strategies in your back pocket on how to calm those emotions. I'm not saying like bury them, feel them, allow yourself to be held in that space, because you can remind yourself most often those big emotions that are surfacing are coming from a wounded inner child. Where I say inner child, but like inner part of you somewhere that is like had some experience with trauma in some form or fashion. And so it's that version of you that's surfacing with these emotions, right? So if you can be in a place where you can remind yourself that as this, so for if I'm speaking of myself, this 42-year-old adult version of me is in a place that is, I am emotionally stable enough to be able to handle whatever emotions surface for me. I know I can keep myself safe. I can create space around me to be in a place where those emotions can flow. If I need to cry, I will allow myself to cry. If I need to be angry, I will allow myself to feel that, and I'll journal about it. I'll journal about what is making me angry and ask where it is coming from. Where is the last time that I felt this way? What situation was I in, or who was I surrounding myself with that made me feel this level of anger that is resurfacing as I sit in front of this mirror, right? But you can remind yourself logically that I am in this 42-year-old body and I am 100% capable of taking care of myself right now. So make sure you have some emotional regulation strategies to help you with this, okay? But like I said, make sure you're in a space where if you need privacy, then create that space for yourself. If you can't do it in the morning, do it at night before bed. Whenever, just 2 to 10 minutes. It's not a whole lot, but I promise you, the more that you do this, it's going to make a huge impact on the way that you start to view yourself and the way that your inner voice starts talking to you. Okay. So make the space, do some journaling around it, and embrace any of those emotions that arise, because that is a powerful thing. Many of us keep emotions buried so deeply that when we start to peel back some of these layers, we often will just be like, whoop, nope, not handling it today, right? So allow those feelings to come through. And honor them, because they're ultimately arising to try and bring awareness to something, whether it's something that you need to learn, whether it's something you need to validate in yourself. The emotions teach us things about ourselves or our situations, right? So it's not bad if they come to the surface. What else do I want to say? You want to process, like allow yourself to process anything that arises. And journaling is a great way to do that. If journaling is not your jam, then like talk it out, like grab your phone and put it on a voice memo as you're sitting in front of the mirror and just let it record. Talk out anything that comes to the surface, right? But just like release it somehow. Maybe you need to phone a friend. Maybe you have someone that's in your support system that you can call and say, oh my gosh, like I just did this, Catherine told me to, and it was fucking crazy, but like I need to talk about it because now I'm completely dysregulated. Like, do you have a second that I can just vent to you about all of the things that came up? Or go to a therapist, right? Like that's what they're for. They're for supporting you through hard things. And when we start to like really get to a place we're trying to connect within a lot more, 9 times out of 10, you're going to have some of these shadow stuff surface that needs to be like worked through. And if you are in a place where you feel strong enough that like now is the time to evoke some change in your life, whatever that looks like for you, whether it's digging deep into like some trauma that you've had, whether it's like finding your confidence so that you can like shift into another job, or maybe try a new hobby, or God forbid, put yourself out there and try to meet some new friends, like whatever that looks like to you. It doesn't matter what change is coming your way, but in finding that confidence, we need to oftentimes have a good, hard, honest look at ourselves and the baggage that we bring along with us, right? So one thing that you can do is, if it helps, I know sometimes it helps me, I'll actually place a hand over my heart while I'm doing this. Sometimes I'll put a hand on the mirror and one hand on my heart. Sometimes I put both hands on my heart. Sometimes I just sit with my palms facing up in like this receiving mode. Because as women, a lot of times we also have a really hard time receiving compliments, receiving money, receiving help, right? So when you're sitting in this position of like, okay, universe, okay, self, I'm ready to receive, positive comments that are coming my way, or I'm ready to receive the emotions and I'm willing to allow them to flow through my body right now so that I can like release them and be able to have, you know, a level of healing. Are you going to be completely healed in 10 minutes? No. Are you ever completely healed? I don't think so. But I think what happens is that it gets easier for us to work through things, right? So, and another really key point to this is like ground yourself. Take a few minutes and ground yourself before you start this work. Because when you come in a place that's like calm, cool, collected, it's going to be easier when those emotions surface to regulate. Then grounding yourself again after just brings you back into yourself, right? So you can do that through tapping. You can do that by taking a drink or having a snack, having some breakfast, supper, whatever it is. You can go outside and just be in nature. Nature is naturally grounding for us anyway. So whatever ways, I know those are the often ones that I always rattle off, but they're quick and dirty and easy to do, right? So if you have your own grounding practice, then like do whatever feels best to you. But give this a try. And like, how do you know when it's working? First of all, it's going to get easier, right? The more often you do it and the more often you connect to that little whisper voice in the background, instead of listening to like the screaming inner critic that is the first initial response to pop up, the more you do that, the more that you condition that inner cheerleader, the more she's going to show up for you and the easier that it's going to get to stand there and face yourself in the mirror, right? Oftentimes that inner critic voice will start to kind of back up. There'll be like this shift, right? Like the inner critic's usually at the forefront. Instead, the inner cheerleader will start to come forward. And when that shift happens, physically, your shoulders will drop, your face will soften, your jaw will unclench, right? Like you'll have physical symptoms in your body that like prove to you that this work is working. You won't have that response when you catch a glimpse of yourself naked in the mirror coming out of the shower, right? Like that might not be your first response. You might be like, nice ass, whatever, right? So like just be aware of how things shift for you physically, emotionally, and mindfully. I'll say mindfully, like our thoughts in our mind. So give this a try. I would absolutely love to know how this works out for you guys. And if any of you are brave enough to share with us in the group, I would absolutely love that. Share in the comments of this video or make a post in the group. If any of you are catching this replay on YouTube, then my friends, if you are not already part of the Connected Female Tribe, why not? First of all, you get a ton of freebies, oftentimes not this week, because this week my kids are on spring break and I plan on practicing what I preach and being mindful and present in the moment with them. So we are going to be spending a lot of time together and I'm doing minimal work this week. But normally I will go live and do readings, free readings for you guys to help you connect to those higher self messages or the intuitive messages that are meant for you at this time. We have a community that's full of support. And for those of you that are in it, I'm so grateful for you because it takes a village to make the space work, right? And I'm just, every time when people like put a post up that's not prompted, meaning that I haven't asked you to do it, when people just show up and they start sharing and they start, sharing funny things or sharing struggles or sharing experiences, it's just, it makes my heart so happy because ultimately this is what I was hoping for the space. And so for any of you that are watching this on YouTube, if you want a space where you are connected with a bunch of amazing like-minded women who are in a place where they want to empower, expand, and just be at the table with other people who have meaningful conversations about all things life and spirit, then you want to get into the tribe. And I would absolutely be honored to have you. So I'm going to leave you with that for this week, my friends. I hope you have the best week. Oh, it's just going to be so good. I am looking very much forward to spending some time with my kids, and I hope you all have a great time too. So I'll leave you there. As always, I'm so grateful for you, and thank you for sharing your time and space with me when you watch this.